All right, welcome to the Mayweather versus Pacquiao podcast. Now, before we get excited, before we let our boxing fan out and just, enjoy the victory that this is for our sport, let's talk about Kenny Bayless. He's going to be our referee, as I rightfully predicted, and I just want to pat myself on the back for that one. Although it wasn't a difficult choice. I mean, do you guys disagree with the fact that Kenny Bayless is the best referee in boxing?
In my stomach, I do, but I can't back it up with anyone that I'd put above him. But I feel like when you come to referees, whenever you try and introduce the idea of the best or the fairest, you're always going to, I don't know, it's kind of you get into a subjective territory.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. In my stomach, I don't want to say he's the best, but he's certainly competent. I certainly have no issue with him reffing this whatsoever.
Yeah, he's a fantastic referee. It's a clear choice for him. I have absolutely no problem with it.
Well, there's a lot of criticism out there for Bayless. Now, with referees and judges, I just want to say this. You can go on the internet and find countless examples and ransom message boards all over the place where people will take the best referee, in this case, Kenny Bayless, and criticize his every single minute screw up that you've seen in every one of his fights in his career. And people do the same thing with judges. Even really good judges have, people claiming that they're bought off and all this stuff. But the thing people are disagreeing with Bayless's selection is that he didn't let Mayweather and Maidana work too much on the inside. Now I just want to say though, go back and watch that fight. So Bayless came in and split them up really quickly. That's the argument. But who was the one initiating all the holding? It wasn't Maidana most of the time. Mayweather was the one who was initiating it, and Bayless split him up to make sure that Mayweather couldn't hold. Now, I don't understand. So the argument is that Bayless doesn't let Maidana work on the inside, yet he splits up Floyd every time he holds to give Maidana a chance to use his hands. I don't know. Can you guys explain this for me?
Well, I saw an animated GIF of Bayless jumping in to save Floyd in that fight.
To save him? Did Maidana have a gun? Because that was the only way he really touched Mayweather, right?
I think they conveniently left out all of the audio context about what point he was jumping in.
Oh, is it the one where Maidana bit him in the glove?
No, I think you see a lot of GIFs where they take things out of proportion, not just with Bayless, with lots of refs, where either the round's ending and they've not been aware of that, and someone's punching after the round's ended and the ref's jumping in to stop it, and they just post that in isolation and say, look at this, he's just jumping in the way of a punch to save him. And it's like, no.
It's the same thing Bob Arum's doing. Taking things out of context to support some ridiculous, whatever it is, a view or something. No? Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I see what you're saying. So here's the thing about the Bayless and that Maidana fight. The most egregious comments that I've been seeing, especially on Reddit, have been this, Bayless didn't let Maidana fight his game plan. You know what? If your game plan is dependent on the ref so heavily, you have a bad game plan.
Right? And if you watch that fight, Maidana starts off trying to box on the outside where Bayless didn't do anything and let Mayweather pick him apart. So if there's any criticism on Maidana not executing his game plan, it is certainly on Maidana.
If Bayless was breaking them up, Maidana should have been trying to break himself out of the clinches. Quicker, if that's what had to happen so that he could work on the inside. I just didn't see as egregious of a referee job. I saw a more poor performance out of Maidana than anything else.
And the thing is, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. People wanted to see Floyd beat. That's the bottom line. They had hopes that Maidana was going to do it because he had a good couple rounds in their first fight. So they were all psyched up about it. And then the second, from the opening rounds, it was incredibly clear Floyd was not going to be beat. Who's going to be the bad man? You know what I mean? Let's pick somebody. And then, Bayless caught the heat.
The referee doesn't matter in this fight, though. My firm belief in this fight is that the referee is going to be irrelevant because there's going to be very little need for a referee to jump in. I doubt there's going to be a ton of holding or rough housing on the inside. I doubt we'll see a penalty needing to be deducted. These are two world-class fighters who are fighting, guys of the same caliber. We don't see Bayless normally interrupting into Pacquiao's fights because he's a classy guy. He doesn't do anything that requires a referee to jump in and give him a stern talking to or anything like that. And with Mayweather, who's content to fight on the outside as Pacquiao is, there's going to be very little need for um, Bayless to be involved.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. He's going to be a non-issue, a non-factor.
Let's talk about the judges. Burt Clements, Glenn Feldman, Dave Moretti.
Feldman's from Connecticut, right?
He is. And he's also a financial advisor for Merrill Lynch.
Oh.
So I doubt anybody needs to really pay him off, right? So we don't.
Oh,
we can
don't
get that
even
thought.
want. Don't,
We can-
I don't
we
even
can-
want to justify that topic.
Yeah, all of
whole,
these
like,
judges are really good.
Yes, they're all very good.
I came up with a pretty solid list of a lot of judges with experience, not only in Nevada but in around America, who would be great choices for this fight. And Moretti, Feldman, and Clements were all on that list. I didn't think that Moretti or Feldman would be picked just because Feldman is from Connecticut, and I thought they would stay within Vegas for the judge. And then Moretti because he's had a couple of strange decisions lately, like his 117, 111 for Jose Benavidez and the Herrera fight, which I don't know. Maybe we should just jump off that subject. And Moretti thought Hagler Leonard beat Hagler. So that's my gripe with him. I thought Hagler won, but at least he had it 7-5. So it's as close as you can have it. Fair enough. But this is the question people want to know or want is how come Steve Smoger's not refereeing this?
Why'd you say he would?
Come on, man.
He has the best face
Don't be
palm in
silly.
boxing.
He has a what?
The best face palm in boxing.
And the best kiss on the cheek. Yeah.
Yeah, he threw
Carl Murat on the ground.
Yeah, Kara Murat. he threw him around, didn't he? He was palming him in the face at one point.
He let Glenn Tapia fight till he was needed to be carted out on a stretcher.
Yep.
Before he figured, oh, you know what, this guy's had enough. I just
he would
saw
have been the right. He would
his
have been
eyeballs
the right
do a
ref.
complete 360.
Mills
He would have been
Lane's
the right ref for Provodnikov.
Mills Lane's the one you want.
Mills Lane. Why? I don't want anybody thrown out of the ring.
Yeah. Weirdness followed Mills Lane, and he was there. He was the ref for the Tyson Holyfield fight with the ear bite. He was also the one who threw B-Hop out the ring in that weird. Just oddness followed him.
I think the opponent was Alan Green. It was early in Hopkins' career.
Right,
If you've never seen it, you have to look this up on YouTube. Mills Lane literally throws Bernard Hopkins out of the ring.
He's trying to break up an awkward clinch. But he has like rotational energy he hasn't thought about, and he just sort of spins
angry.
through the. Yeah, he is angry. He throws him between the ropes.
He was tired of Hopkins and threw Hopkins out of the ring. One of the most memorable probably moments in boxing history where somebody was thrown from the ring or punched out of the ring. And I can't even remember if Hopkins gets back in. I think he does.
No, it's no contest. No. It gets taken off.
Oh, Hopkins act like he broke his leg down there or something?
He's dead forever, right? Yeah, he's dead ringside, and it goes no contest.
They might have counted that as a professional fight for Lane. He might be like 1-0 in his career. Yeah, so that was a middleweight title defense. Wasn't that early given Hopkins' 40-year career, it is pretty early. It was the fourth round. Hopkins got thrown out of the ring.
And it's a no contest, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the rematch, Hopkins stopped him. Yeah. So back to Mayweather Pacquiao, Jason. Why don't you bring up what do you want to talk about, Jason? Because I know you're the most excited for this fight out of the three of us.
Oh, I am? Yeah. I want to talk about your we'll talk about your defense of Pacquiao when you were writing that. So you think it was just overall awkwardness that's going to get to Mayweather?
Well, look,
just having never fought, like Chris Algieri says, Manny Pacquiao is the best at being Manny Pacquiao. Floyd's never fought him.
Brilliant. Algieri, you are a philosopher with that thought
You
that
know,
Manny Pacquiao is the best Manny Pacquiao. I I'm, I can't believe that. Like, is there a better
I
Chris
don't.
Algieri out there than Chris Algieri? There might
I don't
be.
think so.
Oh,
Miguel Vasquez
definitely
maybe
not.
is a better Chris Algieri than Chris Algieri. I don't know. I could
Um,
see Miguel Vasquez outboxing Chris Algieri or not Algieri Provodnikov though.
So I'm doing one of those things that I normally do with fights that when before the fight's announced, but you kind of know it's happening. You pick who you think would win, and I would think it would be Mayweather by a wide unanimous decision. And then as we get closer and closer to the fight,
You
I'm
watch
starting to
HBO's
lean.
programming content and you start to
Yeah,
switch.
you start leaning more towards Pacquiao, or giving Pacquiao much more of a chance than I ever did. So I guess I just want to put that out there. If anything, is that I really thought this would be a wide UD, but I think it's going to be a lot closer of a fight, and I think we might even end up with a little bit of controversy.
Well, let me defend the thing you're talking about. And
Go ahead. Yeah.
anybody who doesn't know, it says how Manny Pacquiao will beat Floyd Mayweather on May 2nd. So essentially, the only thing I really thought of when that came up, and I worked this out with Simon, was most people think that the two options that we're going to see, the most likely options, are Mayweather unanimous decision or Mayweather split decision. And then there's a group of people out there that think that Pacquiao's chance at winning and he can stop Mayweather because he's got all these things. Look, none of that's happening.
Mm.
There's no, I
You
mean,
just tossed a Pacquiao win in the category of none of that's happening.
well, no. I meant of the things that I mentioned above. That's not happening. Pacquiao's not going to stop Mayweather.
Right.
He has a
No.
shot at winning. I'm not gonna throw that out there. Pacquiao has a legitimate shot at winning, and it's better than anybody's had in recent memory, including Chris Algieri beating Manny Pacquiao.
Mm.
But the thing is, Pacquiao is not. It's highly unlikely. It would be Gonzalez Mares type of like, where the hell did that come from? First round knockout. I could understand
Mm.
a late stoppage, but a first round because Pacquiao hasn't had the power at 147, and it's not to say
Yeah.
that he doesn't have any power because he certainly gets everyone's respect.
Mm.
But to say that he has the power to stop Floyd Mayweather, whose chin is legendary, who's taken Canelo Alvarez's punches, who's taken Shane Mosley's punches, who's taken Miguel Cotto's punches, and nothing really has happened. And he's taken Maidana's punches too. Nothing. So to say
Yeah.
that, a guy who's moved up from flyweight all the way to 147 now, who's, late in his career, who's mostly won late in the past 10 years based off of his speed, to say that that guy is going to knock out Floyd Mayweather, a full-grown welterweight, it seems a little far-fetched. And I can't
Oh,
be sold on that.
absolutely.
But can you sell
No.
me on a unanimous decision? Now we're talking.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's at the heart of it. Is that like 80 to 90% of people you hear, they talk about how it's Mayweather decision unless Pacquiao can stop him. And I think that they're simplifying it in a way that doesn't reflect what's actually going to go down. So it's like the two options people don't seem to be talking about is a Pacquiao points win and a Floyd stoppage. And those
Which are
two things, when you
both
think
pretty.
about them, aren't as crazy as they might initially sound.
Yeah, and that's the next piece that's coming is Mayweather. He might stop Pacquiao. There's a really
Yeah.
good chance that he stops him.
No, I think it's really unlikely that he stops him. He would have to fight in a way that I'm not suggesting that he doesn't have the ability to, but he would have to fight in a way that we haven't seen Mayweather fight. And I
Well,
don't necessarily think that's what's going to happen.
Well,
I
Mark,
tell you then, I'll make you the argument for Floyd's stoppage.
Yeah.
Is that he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer, right? No matter what happens on May 2nd, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
If he wants to be legend all time in terms of like the absolute best, you think of Ali, you think of Mayweather, in that status of legendary, he has
Yep.
to do the unthinkable and stop
Yeah.
Pacquiao. Now,
Certainly.
Pacquiao's been stopped in recent years. He's seen
as
how
well
to do
as
it.
multiple times in his career.
Yeah, he's been in trouble before too. And Mayweather's been training very differently as well in terms of what he'd normally do. He is built the same way stylistically as everyone else who's troubled Pacquiao in terms of power and knockout. So if his timing and newly found strength under his new strengthening regime or whatever Maybe that is geared up to hitting legend status by stopping Pacquiao.
Okay, so I guess your premise is built off this idea that you'll agree with the premise that we'd have to see Floyd fight a little bit differently, more
Yeah.
aggressive, sitting down on his punches, right? You
I
agree with
don't think
that?
that's necessarily true. I think Floyd can still do it. Like he knocked out Ricky Hatton being Floyd Mayweather.
Oh,
And I don't
okay.
think that he differentiates from that very much. However, Manny Pacquiao is going to have to be aggressive. And the
Yeah.
more aggressive Pacquiao gets, the
Yeah, the
more
more
Mayweather,
reckless.
more deadly Mayweather's
Yeah.
punches are going to become. And I don't really
Absolutely.
mean deadly. He ain't going to kill him, but
So hold on.
Yeah.
Let me
I
just
mean,
go back. Let me circle back to this. So
go on.
Simon at least agrees that we'd have to see, a Mayweather who's sitting down on his punches a little more, who's going to be a little more,
Yes,
aggressive,
so
right?
with the Hatton analogy,
Anytime,
I was going to say Hatton is the bull to the bullfighter in that
right?
fight.
Yeah,
Pacquiao's not going to necessarily be as bullish, so
right.
Mayweather would either need to enrage him to make him a bull, or step down on his punches a bit more, as you said. Yeah,
yeah, I
Right, and I
highly
think
doubt Pacquiao walks forward flat-footed, like stalking into the corner after him.
okay, you guys are letting me make this point now.
yeah. Go on.
So,
All right, the floor is yours.
all right, it has nothing to do with Ricky Hatton. And then the next thing,
But we wanted to make fun of him.
the poor guy got knocked out by Sinchenko. Oh, it was so sad.
It's a body shot, though.
That was brutal. Anyways, so I think he would have to fight differently. That's my thought on it. He'd have to fight differently. I think Floyd probably could have knocked out a lot more people in his career had he chosen to take that risk, right? And you're saying he's going to take that risk because of from a legacy standpoint, right?
We're saying
Well,
it's
yeah.
a possibility. We're not
Possibly,
saying
right?
that's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah. No, I'm not
The,
saying that.
the guy's
but
had
you're saying-
5-6 years being haunted by the man's name.
Absolutely.
What better way to cleanse his palate?
To end it once and for all. Absolutely. But I think that Floyd already rates himself up there and higher than those fighters that you mentioned. So I don't think he's necessarily going to be driven by that in the way that you're suggesting, because he already views himself that way. So that isn't necessarily going to be a factor.
That's a good point.
I can
He
get
already
behind
views
that
himself,
from a legacy
yeah.
point of view.
From a legacy point. But,
Maybe then lean more towards the justification of a palate cleanser, like I mentioned, that he's just sick of this guy.
It's tired, yeah, and I could get behind that a little bit. That he may adjust his fighting style. But the thing with Floyd is, man, you've seen him and you've seen his opponents in positions where you just know if he turned it up a little bit, they're gone. And I'm thinking of Guerrero specifically. I feel like he could. I know Guerrero's got a solid chin, but I feel like he could have stopped Guerrero. Man, the guy had nothing. Was giving him nothing, and he just
Keith
didn't
Thurman is
do
a bigger
it.
puncher. Barely managed to drop Guerrero, so I don't know about that.
I don't know. I don't know.
I know what you're getting at, but
yeah, I just think
Dude's got a
he'd
hard
have to
head.
make such stylistic adjustments that it isn't going to be worth the danger. Floyd's the most calculated risk ratio, right? Risk reward ratio fighter out there. He does a fantastic job at that. I think if he sees it, he'll jump on it, but I just don't think. I don't even know if his mind is capable of seeing a knockout in this fight. But we'll see.
The thing that has me, that just got me on this fight is that we saw it with the Hopkins fight when he fought Kovalev, that we're going to get the most unlikely outcome, the one that nobody was predicting.
Right.
And the one that is just far-fetched as all hell is clearly a draw.
Yeah.
So if I was you out there, I would put a couple of dollars on draw, because it's got a high money line or whatever that you're going to call it, good odds or something. So I think we're going to get a draw.
What's a draw, Simon, usually pay out? Isn't it like 30-1?
It's something like
It can be high like that. I'm not sure what
20?
it is for this fight. Let's look it up.
Yeah, let's look at that up.
So go on, Angelo. You think there's a good probability, or where would you rate that?
Like we're not able to predict these types of fights so easily.
Can't.
It draws somewhere around 20-1, I think. Simon, are you getting the same thing? Some places have it a little lower, so it's about 20-1.
20-1.
But
Good odds.
I think the reason that it's tough to predict this fight is the same reason it's so demanded.
Right.
And to mirror your sentiment from earlier, you said that you felt it was clearly a Floyd decision affair, but as the fights approached, you felt a little bit less, bit less sure each day, and I felt that definitely.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it is. It's just,
It's doubt. It's that thing in the back of our head.
Yep. As hard as it is to bet against Mayweather, which is basically impossible, it's pretty hard to bet against Pacquiao too. You know what I mean? So it's just the culmination of the. I'm not saying he doesn't lose,
He's
but
had
it's
a lot
hard
of
to bet
close
against
fights,
him.
though. I don't want to say that he's not a good fighter or anything, but he's just had a lot of really close fights that could have gone either way. So for me, that's what really has me unsure about this fight.
I know, but this is somebody who's going to be in the ring with him for the first time too. You know what I mean? And there's you think Crawford adjusts well, right? Floyd's the master at it, right? He's
Right.
the master class of it. So it's only going to be a matter of time until Floyd adjusts. But can Manny bank enough rounds early on? I think is kind of going to be the name of the game.
I want to switch gears a little now. Not that this wasn't interesting, but I wanted to read a quote from Max Kellerman about this. It was pertaining to the Jose Luis Castillo fight, and Kellerman was critical of Harold Letterman's scoring, which had Castillo winning a fairly wide decision. And Kellerman said, Harold Letterman, the unofficial ringside television judge, gave the third round to Castillo, which I think demonstrates that Mayweather suffers from the same scoring syndrome that afflicted Pernell Whitaker. Mayweather is so seldomly hit cleanly in his face that when a clean shot is landed against him, it registers all out of proportion in the observer's mind. Meanwhile, the 3 clean shots Mayweather just landed against his opponent do not make the same kind of impression. So I bring that up. Correct. So I bring that up because in the eyes of fight fans out there, can Mayweather get a clean decision?
I think there's a good chance that he can, dependent on his defense. I really do. I think, if he comes out and he's kind of already got Pacquiao figured out somehow, right, and he doesn't need a lot of adjustment period or time, maybe
It's like the
say
Guerrero
2
fight.
rounds. Yeah,
Or the Canelo fight.
You know exactly. Or the second Maidana fight. If we see that Floyd, right, I think it's going to be pretty clear. But if we see the one who's struggling a little bit to adjust and to adapt and figure his opponent out, then we're going to get into some murky water. But there's definitely the chance that he's completely capable from round 1. I think it's unlikely, but it's there. But it's a really good point that Kellerman made, though. It is. But you just have to take into account the impact of the punches too. Obviously, who's going to be hitting harder on fight night, Mayweather or Pacquiao?
We talked earlier about you not thinking he's going to try something new this fight. In which case, what do you think his adjustments in camp have been about?
I think
finding something interesting to put on Inside Mayweather Pacquiao that isn't the same old stuff.
Something for the Shots app. No, I think it's that's the most uninstalled app of 2015.
I still have it installed. I just noticed today that it updated.
So
I'll remove it after the fight.
After the fight, that's good. What is his adjustments in camp?
Just in case they announce that the fight's canceled on Shots, I'll know.
That'll be the place to find out. I think it could be a couple things. One, he's come out and said, boxing has become more of a job to me. I don't have the passion for it, right? So I think part of that is a marketing ploy, like, hey, buy this fight because I'm not doing it much longer. But I think part of it is probably true. He keeps very rigorous hours. He fights, spars all through the night and does all kinds of crazy crap in the middle of the night. So I think part of it may be just trying to switch things up to keep that, when you're doing something new, it's more interesting. Right?
You think he's bored?
He certainly could be. I think
Heading
it would be
into the biggest
hard. I
fight
think it
and
would be
most lucrative
hard to
fight of his
become
career
Yeah,
to
I
be
think,
bored.
bored.
the whole stuff
Let me finish,
when it
man.
comes
I think
down
it'd
to
be hard
Ariza
to be bored, but he
is
may just want to try
more
it.
to
Like,
do
he's
with
done
getting into
enough new
Pacquiao's
things. He
camp's
may be
head,
confident
as
enough in
far as,
himself that
moving from camp to camp, and now we
he's
know,
willing to try new things.
Pacquiao's
And
training secrets and
It's
blah,
an
blah, blah.
As like a psychological thing, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But in terms of they are doing different stuff and they're doing training different to what they've done before. Was it earlier you were talking about how you think they're going to fight the same fight and you don't believe that they'll change the game plan, because why would he change the game plan in such an important fight? But they then seem to be changing the training routine. It doesn't add up consistently with the argument you made before.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, um, you could implement changes in your training strategy, but still fight the same game plan. Um, and I think part of implementing these changes is, one, to get a little bit of attention about it, and two, because maybe his routine, got a little bit stale and he wanted to try something new. Now, granted, obviously, it's the most important fight of your life. Maybe now is not the time to try something new. Or you could say that maybe he's confident enough in his abilities that he's willing to try something new because he's not worried about it and he knows that he's training properly for the fight no matter which way he trains.
I don't
I
think
think
it'd be that complacent though, would they? They wouldn't. I don't think. I think with 6 years build up, he's gonna be looking at this fight as serious business. It's not going to be something that he's going to take lightly and think, oh, you know what? I'll just screw with my training regime. That's fine. Why now is it they've done the same? Have they? But have they done the same training regime forever? And now of all the times they switch it up.
Well, I think from training camp to training camp, there's going to be changes for every fighter, and what we're seeing more than anything is just the media's attention being brought to it and making it into a big deal.
So you're kind of going with the angle then that there's always little changes between camps, between this fight and this fight, but because of the attention on this one, every minute change is getting magnified and got a lot of attention on it.
Exactly.
I think you've just said it, though, is that this is the change. I don't think anything's actually changed, and if there is, it's very small. And this has all been brought on to create stories, to keep people fresh on the fight, because, the casuals are going to love this no matter what, but there's some people who are, from in between casual and whatever else is after that, who need these kind of stories to kind of like. And Jason, I think you were saying it earlier, to kind of move from your position originally, which was Mayweather decision or whatever it may have been, to maybe Pacquiao has the edge or whoever.
Right.
But another, to transition off this topic, there's another story that I think was, I don't know, was it there to kind of drum up interest or to create controversy, and that's the whole thing with the tickets.
Yeah, I mean, post figuring out exactly what happened, what's your take on that, Simon?
It's a really interesting one because I kind of initially was looking at it as whether it was some sort of like promotional posturing where they wanted to, I don't know, make Arum look like he was the villain that was jeopardizing the fight, so that the Mayweather, his team, his people, Heyman, etc., could come in at the last minute at the 11th hour, pull some strings and get it working, so that Arum's the guy that nearly scuppered it and Team Mayweather came through and made it work to put themselves as the like heroes of the event. But looking at it more, the way that it's come in, I'm not following it from a revenue point of view. I don't think it was anything to do with cash. I wonder whether they basically, with the negotiation, Arum has been firm saying that HBO need to be included as like an equal, partnership, as you like, and HBO have to have trust in Arum to represent their best interests. Right. And if they've agreed it verbally, but then screwed him in the contract and not included them, they wanted to leave Arum in the position where if he says no, he's ruining the fight, and if he says yes, he's stitching up HBO, so that when they move past this event, Arum's relationship with HBO is damaged.
Is now damaged, yeah. The one thing that I just don't understand from Arum's, Pacquiao's camp's point of view is it doesn't fit the narrative of this fight, which was, we gave up everything. We had to give up complete control. We gave into every single one of Floyd's demands. And if we didn't, the fight wouldn't be, we wouldn't have the fight because that's how horrible Floyd is. You know what I mean? So, and then now you're going to try to say, I need to be an equal partner. Well, you built the narrative of this fight on the fact that you had to give up all these demands and couldn't get anything.
They're
So
happy
it's
to play
just
like the gracious martyr when it comes to like
right.
testing and ring size and anything like that. But then the minute it's about your network, the things that are bigger than you, like, oh no, that's non-negotiable. We didn't give
Right.
in on that front.
Yeah. So it's just it was interesting to kind of see that all come to light, and it all came pretty fast. It seemed like I haven't even been following when tickets are available because I just there's no interest for me to ever try to go see a fight like that. So
Why? Because you don't have a couple million in the bank?
I don't want to say that, but
They
yeah.
are dear. They've just gone up now, like as of speaking. And
Do you guys think that maybe that's one end of it, that maybe Arum is trying to position himself as a martyr, no, you originally said that Arum was
They were setting Arum up to be the bad guy.
Yeah. Now, and Arum's saying all these things to make it look like he's like in the right here, but given his track record as getting caught in lying and admitting to lying and then giving reasons for the lying and then lying about the lying, I don't, it's tough for me to trust him that this is what is going on. And as you said originally, they signed an agreement saying that Mayweather, and even in the in Dan Rayfield's article, he says that a screenshot was taken of the contract, which specifically stated that Mayweather Promotions was the sole negotiator with MGM.
Yeah.
So that seems like a smoking gun, and like, some indication they're like, Arum, what are you doing?
Do you think that is the third angle, is that he was incompetent?
He's just
and is now
rocker.
trying to lie his way out of looking like he's incompetent to HBO because he doesn't want HBO to scratch their heads and go like, oh no, we put that guy in charge.
I don't know. I feel like HBO knew anything that happened. HBO was and they were privy to it. They were privy to whatever contract was or was not negotiated at the highest level, I would imagine.
Do you think there's fatigue though about this? Like everyone just like, let's just get it done and over with. Like just leave it and let's just have this get done. We're all gonna cash major checks, and Arum's the only one being petty at this point, trying to argue the fine details or whatever the case may be. Because who knows what the actual details here are? I really doubt that it's a difference between like 200 and 100 million.
I could imagine that Arum is the one that's still being petty and holding on to it because he basically got cut out of things.
That's kind of funny when, like, if you zoom out and think that, like, of all the parties to this, the one person who's not exhausted of arguing over petty details is the like 138-year-old fossil who's like still nipping at every detail.
Yeah. Good for him, man. He got it this far in the game for some reason, I suppose.
Yeah, by doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the common opponents between Mayweather and Pacquiao, and I'm just wanted to get you guys' take. Do you think that there's any significance or anything to be learned from how they performed against common opponents?
You want to take it, Simon?
Yeah, I'm never usually a fan of common opponent theories, and especially in this situation, the only time I'm kind of interested in common opponent is where we're trying to compare two fighters who have a very similar style and how they've approached the same puzzle. And in this case, they're so different in the way that they do things. Yeah, they have common opponents, but they approach problems differently, so they're going to have different results, and they've both handled those puzzles excellently in their own way. And so comparing how one person solved it to how another person has, I think leads us down the garden path a bit and gives us kind of false positives, because you could look at like Hatton fights and say, oh well, Pacquiao managed to like deal with it a lot sooner, so therefore he gets the edge. And then you can bring in like Marquez and look at like, oh well, Marquez managed to crack Pacquiao, and Mayweather handled it, so therefore he has the edge. And I think all you're looking really at is the stylistic differences between them, emphasized via a third-party fighter.
Yeah, it really leads us nowhere. And the really thing that makes this fight really fascinating and why it's captivated boxing fans' minds for 6 years, which you'd think you'd get tired of it, or you'd see enough to form a pretty solid opinion, is that their styles are completely unique to themselves. And it's not even that Mayweather's a defensive fighter and Pacquiao's an offensive fighter. It's like, no, their specific brand, their flavor of whatever they bring is just so different from everyone else that it's compelling. And I really don't think there's anything you can take except for one thing. I mean, Jason, you haven't spoken yet, so maybe you might want to start thinking of the counter here, is that the way Marquez was able to time Pacquiao. Now, granted, he had 36 fights, or not 36 fights, 36 rounds to figure it out.
Don't take my argument away from me. Yeah, go ahead.
Granted, he had 36 rounds to figure it out. He was able to counter Pacquiao, but here's my counter, because I know you're going to say that he had 3 fights to do it, right?
Right.
Do you really, if you really want to use that argument, you're going to ignore half of the fights, because every single one of those fights was nearly dead even, where Marquez won rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. But all that means is that Marquez is
50% the fighter that Floyd is
good at.
Am I not getting this math correct?
No, stylistically, the matchup is different. There are 2 different matchups between those 2 guys. Marquez had 36 rounds to figure Pacquiao out. That's a significant amount of time to be in the ring with somebody. Marquez is a counterpuncher. What's going to get better with Marquez with time over rounds? His ability to time Pacquiao. I thought it was his power. Well, I guess wrong. I want to make a joke about HGH being injected into his eyeballs, but he had all that. He had all that time in the ring with him, and
If I came up and told you Pacquiao is the better fighter because he handled Hatton quicker than Mayweather could, you'd laugh in my face, and rightly so. And it's for the very same reason that you can't bring Marquez into it. They're just stylistically different, and therefore any comparison goes out the window.
And there's the whole thing that, like, Floyd brought him up by 2 weight classes, so he was slow and sluggish, right? So he wasn't as sharp and as on point as he would have been, right? I mean, that's a really valid point as well when it comes to comparing those 2 fights.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an apples to oranges comparison.
Which is why...
And that's the reason why you can't do these sort of arguments.
Exactly.
Where, I mean, I don't really believe what I just said, although I do think there's some truth in the timing aspect of it, because, Mayweather's a master in timing. But you can't run away with that, and you can't base your whole argument on that.
Well, that's the great thing about the fight, is there's nothing that you could point to with either of these guys that says, oh, I got no interest in tuning in because it's going to be a clear runaway victory. Because they fought X fighter this way, or they've done X, Y, and Z in the ring in the past. There's nothing that you could point to that gives you that feeling.
Now, hindsight is going to kill us,
of course,
on Sunday morning, but, we're not there yet. So let's look at the future. So Manny Pacquiao wins. He scores a unanimous decision over Floyd Mayweather. What does his future hold for him?
Yeah, so my initial thought would be that, especially if it's a close decision, a rematch. What do you think about that, Angela?
It seems like that's the logical thing to do.
Yeah.
But, think about it. It took them 6 years to make this damn fight, and the contract is barely getting signed to finalize a fight 10 days away. You really seriously telling me that a rematch is in the cards? You think, second time it'll be much easier? No, I think it'd be just as difficult the second time around to negotiate a rematch.
Well, especially if they started viewing him as the A side, as the winner. And
right.
Arum got big for his boots. Unless you're suggesting rematch 2020.
Well, it'd be 2021, but yeah.
Oh wait, I don't know. I was shaving a year.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a different path you go here.
What would you do?
It makes sense for Arum in his bottom line. So essentially, what you do is, history tells us with these pay-per-view stars that there's always a passing of the torch moment. And Pacquiao versus Mayweather, no torch is being passed.
It's like a lateral move. It's like a lateral pass. Yeah.
It doesn't benefit anybody other than the 2 guys in the ring. And not even, and really, there's nothing good that can come of that outside of for Floyd or Manny. But for Arum, he's going to think like a businessman, and what he's going to do, he's going to say, I got to create the next star. I got to find the prospect that I have, or the young fighter that I have, that can take the torch from Manny. and carry this forward because I got to sustain the longevity of my business. So guess who he puts him in there with? The only guy that Top Rank has that can beat Manny Pacquiao. And I've told you guys in the past for years, or now since Terrence Crawford has come onto the scene, that he is the guy that will beat Manny Pacquiao someday. And I favor him today. I favor him tomorrow. You put Terrence Crawford with Manny Pacquiao, pass the torch. Now, guess what? Mayweather still got many problems, just as he always says about Manny about with his Marquez problems. Now you can do a rematch because people will still tune in. People will tune into Mayweather De La Hoya tomorrow.
You're saying
Manny or Pacquiao De La Hoya.
So you're saying if Manny were to lose his belt or lose to Crawford post Mayweather, it would still make for a good Mayweather fight.
I like that. You're saying that he has to pass the hot potato.
Yep.
And then go and take the rematch.
It's almost like Cal Brook and Amir Khan. Like they could go on and fight other people or lose, or somebody loses. It's okay. They could still got that fight, right?
Yeah. Carl Froch still has a third Groves fight that he can whip out like an ace in the hole. Now here's my plan for Mayweather, and you've actually told me that this idea is stupid in the past, Jason, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I think it's a cool idea.
I don't care what you think. It's a cool idea. It's not practical. Go on.
Well, a lot of things are cool and not practical. Anyway,
what's the idea?
So Mayweather, he beats Pacquiao, knocks him out. So what does he do? He breaks the Marciano's record. But how he does that is he doesn't go and fight off all these young guys. He's getting old. He doesn't need to do that. What he needs to do is give people around the world who've never got a chance to see him fight that opportunity. So he goes barnstorming around the world, fighting the best welterweight on the domestic level in every country. So he goes to the UK and fights Frankie Gavin or Bradley Skeet, and then doesn't get paid by Frank Warren. He goes to Japan and fights Yoshihiro Kamigai. What are we at, like 58 wins now? He goes to South Africa and fights Joshua Clottey at, 158, something like that. I think that would be a really cool way to end his the Floyd Mayweather legend. Obviously not practical.
Yeah, if he was calm in San Diego, like it's just ridiculous. Like,
who would he
talked
fight?
earlier about the training montages he's been doing to emulate Rocky, and then you're giving him his Apollo Creed moment to like go and give someone a chance, like nobody a chance. It's mad. I did the idea.
Say it was,
but
Jason
I dislike
say it was stupid.
your grasp on reality.
This is not what I'm known for. We got to wrap this up. So let me ask you guys real quick. What are you guys doing for the fight? How are you watching the fight? Simon, what is it going to be, like 4 a.m. for you?
Yeah, it'll be a late one. I'll have it on at my house. It'll be an open invitation to all my peeps that want to come watch it. In the past, they've struggled to stay awake sometimes. I think hopefully they'll make it this time, as long as the undercard's more entertaining than certain
it doesn't have Vasquez versus Bay too, so that should be good.
That fight has actually ended a Mayweather fight watching party for me before, where just all my guests fell asleep and people were like coming to sort of groggily being like, I gotta go, man. Like, this is, I can't take it. That has actually scuppered fight watching plans for me before. I mean, but I might have to abandon the undercard if it doesn't look too compelling and show reruns of good fights.
The only problem I could foresee with that is showing replays of Hagler Hearns on loop, and then they're going to get Mayweather Pacquiao and fall asleep.
Oh wow!
Oh,
nice.
Shots fired.
What about you, Jason?
We're going to have some friends over. We got a couple couples that are invited over to the house. Probably come over early, have some dinner, get ready, watch the fight. Do you know
if you live in the Connecticut area,
you're welcome to hit me up.
You should message Jason.
Yep.
And see if he can come over.
Yep. Absolutely. You're more than welcome after a thorough background check.
Yeah, he's catering. He's getting the beers in. Hit him up.
I'll be at home. I'll be behind the laptop probably. I don't know what exactly I'm going to do during the fight, what kind of coverage to provide. Just given, if you're a boxing fan who isn't watching this fight, I don't know, you can't be helped really, can you?
Sort your life out, yeah.
Yeah, you got to figure things out.
If you're not faking your one of your parents' death to get out of work, what kind of boxing fan are you? All right, thanks for listening to the Mayweather Pacquiao podcast. This has been a cursed podcast. If you can't tell, the audio is different because every time we try to record anything on this one, and you can tell why we don't talk about this subject on a regular podcast, is because something always goes wrong. So for a complete list of all the errors and things we've run across trying to record this, follow Sundaypuncher.com.
And
All right.
shoot us an email.
Yeah,
What's
shoot us
the
an email.
email?
We'll explain.
Yep.